Spring 1943. Southern sector of the Kursk salient. The fields lie quiet beneath a pale morning sky. Light mist clings to the grass, softening the lines of the distant tree lines. Then, from somewhere beyond a ridge, a low vibration rolls across the earth. Slow, heavy, relentless. The kind of mechanical rumble that feels in the chest before it reaches the ears. Moments later, a massive block of armored steel crawls into view. It's unlike anything the German reconnaissance units have reported before. No turret, no familiar silhouette. Just a towering hull and a single enormous gun fixed straight ahead. A monstrous 152mm barrel that looks more like siege artillery than anything meant to move. The machine grinds forward, its tracks chewing the dirt, leaving deep trenches behind. A burst of black diesel smoke rises as the driver adjusts his speed. The entire structure vibrates with barely contained violence. On a nearby slope, German tank crews lean from their hatches, squinting into the haze. They can't identify the shape, but they can feel the tension tightening. Then the gun fires. A concussion like a collapsing building tears through the valley. Dust erupts. Metal screams. And that unknown vehicle stands unmoved. What kind of machine fires shells heavy enough to flip tanks? And how did it appear almost out of nowhere? The story of the Su-152 does not begin with innovation or ambition. It begins with fear, and with the brutal reality that the Red Army faced in the winter of 1942. During the Soviet counteroffensive around Stalingrad, the Red Army confronted new German armor that changed the balance of power. The Tiger, the Panther, and the massive Ferdinand tank destroyer. These machines could dominate the battlefield at long range. Their armor resisted the standard Soviet 76mm guns. Shells often bounced off harmlessly, raising sparks but doing little else. Reports from the front forced a grim conclusion. The Red Army had no reliable way to stop Germany's newest tanks. The Soviet High Command needed a weapon capable of smashing bunkers, tearing apart urban strongpoints, and, above all, destroying heavy armored vehicles, and they needed it immediately. The factories in the Urals were already strained to their limits. Steel was scarce. Skilled workers were exhausted. Time was running out. Yet in the Chelyabinsk Design Bureau, engineers proposed something radical. Use what already existed. The KV-1S heavy tank chassis was reliable and strong. The ML-20 152mm howitzer was already in production and known for its devastating power. Combine them fast and create a self-propelled gun capable of cracking open the hardest German armor. There was no time for elegant solutions, no time for prototypes, no time for reinventing anything. From concept to a working prototype, the process took 25 days. In a war defined by industrial miracles, this one stood out. The Su-152 was not the result of refinement, it was the result of necessity. The Su-152 was not a tank in the traditional sense. It was a blunt instrument, a mobile fortress built around a colossal gun. Its hull was a modified KV-1S, stripped of the turret and reinforced to hold the ML-20S howitzer. The gun was fixed in place with only a small degree of horizontal movement. If the target wasn't within that narrow arc, the entire 45-ton vehicle had to reposition. It was crude but effective. The ML-20S was the centerpiece, a 152mm howitzer firing massive shells nearly 110 pounds in weight. The explosive force was enough to blow apart bunkers, shatter concrete, or disable tanks through sheer blast pressure even without penetrating their armor. Inside, the crew of 5 worked in tight conditions. The driver, isolated at the front left, saw the world through a narrow viewing slit. Every bump rattled his bones. The gunner managed elevation and the few degrees of traverse allowed by the mount. He relied on the commander's shouted corrections and on instinct developed under fire. The commander, perched behind the gun breech, coordinated every movement, scanning, identifying targets, and making split-second decisions that often determined life or death. The loader had the hardest job of all. The ML-20 fired separate loading ammunition, a massive shell and a heavy propellant charge. Handling these inside the cramped hull, under the gun's recoil and the engine's heat, was grueling. 2 rounds per minute was considered good performance. Behind them, ammunition lay stacked beside the fuel tank. It was a terrifying combination. A single accurate hit from a German 88 could trigger catastrophic explosions. The Su-152 demanded teamwork. Every movement, every shot depended on coordination. It wasn't graceful, it wasn't forgiving, but when that gun fired, the battlefield changed. The Su-152's reputation was forged in the fire of the Battle of Kursk, July 1943, the largest tank engagement in history. Only a handful of these vehicles were available, and crews had received minimal training. Yet they were thrown directly into the path of the German armored spearheads. On July 6th, a German Ferdinand tank destroyer moved forward along a ridge. Its 200mm frontal armor made it almost impervious to most Soviet weapons, but a Soviet Su-152 lay hidden in a gully, hull down, engine off. At roughly 900 meters, the Soviet crew opened fire. The shell didn't penetrate, it didn't need to. The enormous blast ripped optics from their fittings, stunned the crew, and disabled the massive machine. Smoke poured from the hatches as the vehicle lurched to a halt. This was the moment when German troops began using a new nickname, Zveroboy, Beast Slayer. Later in the battle, a Panzer IV tried to reposition along a field lane. An Su-152 shell detonated beneath its hull. The pressure lifted the 25-ton tank off the ground, flipped it sideways, and dumped it into a ditch. Eyewitness accounts describe it as like a toy kicked by a giant. The Su-152 was deadly at range, but vulnerable up close. In one village fight, a Soviet crew found themselves facing German infantry. Their gun, fixed forward, couldn't traverse to meet the threat. The crew fought from the hatches with submachine guns, buying time until another Su-152 swung onto the street and cleared the position with a single devastating shot. The vehicle's enemies feared it. Its crews respected it. And both sides understood one thing. When a 152mm shell hit, the outcome was final. The Su-152's frontline career was short, not for lack of effectiveness, but because the war evolved rapidly. Its successor, the ISU-152, improved on nearly every weakness. Built on the new IS heavy tank chassis, the ISU featured better armor, a stronger suspension, and a more efficient internal layout. The gun remained the same, but the platform was more durable and more versatile. After the war, Su-152s faded quickly. Many were scrapped, others became training vehicles. Some rusted away on proving grounds. Unlike the T-34, it never became a national symbol. Unlike the German Tiger, it never became an icon of power. It had no elegant profile, no romantic stories attached to it. Its role had been functional, brutal, necessary, and unsentimental. Yet military historians today recognize the Su-152 as one of the most important Soviet weapons of mid-war development. It represented a solution born under crushing pressure. Its gun influenced post-war artillery design. Its psychological effect reshaped defensive tactics. For its crews, the Su-152 was more than a machine. It was a moving shield, a bunker, a hammer. For its enemies, it was a sound and a flash. And then destruction. Its story is not one of glory. It is one of necessity, ingenuity, and raw firepower. Today, a single Su-152 stands silent in a museum yard. Its steel armor is dulled by rain and time. Its gun points forward into nothing, the breech cold, the fighting compartment empty. Wind slips through the vision slits. Dust swirls. A faint metallic rattle echoes through the hull. No one would guess how this crude, improvised machine once shattered German armor and collapsed entire bunkers with a single shot. For some, it was only a tool. For others, a lifesaver. For its enemies, A brief flash, a final sound,